Welcome to the Audacious Empires podcast. I'm your host, Leanne Woff, business integrator and founder of Audacious Empires. Each week, my crew and I will be exploring all things building and scaling an extraordinary business. This podcast is here to share how multi-six and seven-figure entrepreneurs can step out of daily business operations and slide into being CEOs, expanding your reach and increasing your impact. Learn how to build your team the right way, create smart systems, and get the support you need to keep growing. It's time to get out of the doing and become the thought leader and world-class empire builder that you are. Hey, crew. Hope you're having a fantastic day or week or night, whatever it is for you. Today, I want to talk to you about scaling and scaling in a systematic way. So today's episode is called Scaling Smartly. If you're comfortable, you're doing it wrong. Now, the reason that I came up with this episode was based on a conversation I was having with one of my amazing empire building clients. And it got me thinking, there is a whole aspect of scaling and growth and working on systems and operations that no one really talks about. And that is the thoughts and the feelings and the emotional journey we go through when we look at things at this level. So I'll give you a little bit of a backstory. So we created a new way of doing something. And in creating this new method, we thought about all of the different moving pieces, all of the potential problems, all of the potential outcomes, the impact that we wanted to have, what this system needed to do, and the different areas it needed to cover. We took that away. We formulated a new way of doing it, considering all these things, covered all the bases. We came back and then we presented this to our client and we walked them through step by step, and the client loved it. They were excited. They were happy that this is amazing. We've not seen something like this before. It's awesome. Totally on board. And then a few days later, we had another call, and now the client got a little bit wobbly. And it was, I've actually been thinking about this, and could we change it back? Change these pieces back to the way that we used to do it. And it's an interesting flip that happens, but it's not uncommon. And so there is this piece where some time has passed and we start to think, maybe I haven't considered this. Maybe this hasn't been considered. Maybe we should go back to how we were doing it before because I know that worked. And I didn't have this particular problem when we did it that way. So this is a simple solution. I don't understand why we changed it. There is something very limiting about that mindset. And the reason behind it is that we're defaulting to going back to what's comfortable. And a lot of the time, we're not actually looking at all of those factors that went into making this system. We're not making sure that all the criteria has been covered, that all of the different avenues that this new system or new approach has to work for have been covered. And usually it's because we found a problem. Now, this is where it can all fall over. It can all fall over so easily if we don't communicate properly. Because I tell you, there is a reason that you're feeling the way you're feeling, or that you see a problem that is there and you want fixed. That's fair enough. And there is a reason that whoever you're working with has presented a new approach, the way that they have. And if there is a flip, more often than not, it's because there's some information missing in the middle. But like I said earlier, it's a common flip. I see it all the time. And when we see something all the time, Usually that tells us something about human behavior, because all businesses are different, but the consistent element are people and human behavior. And so where does this flip come from? It comes from our need to feel safe and to be protected. And this might seem like, why do we really need to think about that when I just want a system or a process that is going to be scalable and work and make everything run smoothly? I don't really care about human behavior. I don't really care about emotion. I don't really care about the mindset factor. I just want the thing done and working. But it underpins a lot of the tactics. So you'll go to work with somebody to help grow your business or improve your systems or manage your operations. And you'll ask about the tactics. What does this look like? What am I going to get? What will the outcome be? How long will it take? What different things do you know how to do? And a lot of service providers will answer all those questions and then they'll stop, which is great until something like this happens. Because the bit that's not getting spoken about is all of the thought processing and the process of filtering your emotions and the different feelings that you can expect as you're making improvement. When we change things, we feel unsafe. And that's why we want to default to what's comfortable. Our body and our brain is saying to us, this is scary and it's different. Now, I've met quite a few people in my life who have said, I hate change. I don't like new. I don't like different. There's a few that love it, but majority don't, especially if they can't see the reason for it. When we're faced with some kind of problem, we immediately go back to, okay, how do I retreat? I can see a danger or I can see a potential danger. This could be an issue. What am I going to do about it? I'm going to go back to where I know it's safe. And that's logical. Except when we're looking at business growth and we're looking at improvement, we're not trying to keep what's always been done that way, which is where safety is. We want to push that envelope a little bit because that's where we get innovation. That's where we get improvement. If we're going to stay the same, you're not going to improve. You're going to stay the same. So you can't expect growth and therefore scalability and leverage if you're not going to change anything. But for us to go through this friction of change, it's got to be worth it. Why should we bother? It's not comfortable. Give me a reason to do that. How it plays out is in people and process friction. When we have to change something with people, we feel uncomfortable. When we have to change something with the process or the way it's always been done, we feel uncomfortable. This is how our survival mode and our survival instincts show up when we're improving systems and processes, when we're trying to grow a business. So how do we handle that? This is something that I do talk about with my clients. When I stand back and I see something happening or I know it's coming, I'll say it first. Hey, when we get there, you might feel like this, or it's going to look like this. It's going to look wobbly before it looks amazing. And that's normal. It's okay. Because then we can preempt that wobble and we have perspective and we have reason as to why we should bother changing this. So what is the problem? The problem is when we're faced with an issue, we've been given a new idea or a new way to do something. And at first it makes so much sense and it's exciting. The flip happens when we see a problem or an issue. Oh, but what about this factor? And then we get tunnel vision. We get tunnel vision on there's this problem. I need to fix it. How can I fix it? Here's how I know how. Yep, great. That solves that. Awesome. Move forward. But it's a very narrow view. And to come up with a solution that's actually going to be long lasting, we need a collaborative approach, especially if someone else has gone through the effort of looking at all of the factors. The likelihood is they've already got the solution for the problem that you see. They've already factored it in. And they haven't told you yet, which is where the communication comes in and why we need to be able to have these conversations without offense and have these conversations and say, hey, this feels uncomfortable and I'm worried about this. I'm worried about that. Or what happens if this, and this happens in this new way of doing things? Then what? And get the answers that you need. So what we want to be doing is acknowledging that we're uncomfortable. And then we want to start looking at why we're uncomfortable. I was happy, and then all of a sudden I wasn't anymore. Why is that? Because I realized this piece. And then it means I'm going to have a damaged reputation if that happens that way. And I don't want to risk that. And then we consult for the best solution. More brains are always better, especially when you're looking for a solution and one that will serve your business and help it grow. What we want is to keep you as safe as possible, but not too safe, because we will default to saying everything is an emergency and our insides won't feel great. But in reality, it's not that bad. And there's all these things that you might not have seen yet. Without having the conversation and saying, hey, this is what I can see. Have you thought about that? Or how do we manage this? And taking that team approach to improvement, you stay stuck because you only ever find the solution that you were going to find. And can I tell you, if you're going to get people on board to help your business grow or to systemize or to find new ideas and to innovate so that your life can be easier, you want to take their advice. And it doesn't mean agreeing every time, but it means when you see an issue, leverage their knowledge. That's what they're here for. And if you're having a wobble or if you've noticed something, talk about it. Get them on board. See what their solution could be. And maybe it's something you haven't thought of before. And maybe it'll make that flip go back. It'll go back to, okay, great. Now I understand. And now my confidence is back. And now I can keep looking forward. We need to be honest and we need to be open and have that ability to go, hang on, where is the balance here between safe and growing? Because we want to be safe, but not too safe. We want our logic to reign. And if you don't know why something has been done the way it's been done, or why a decision has been made in that way, ask. Always ask. And if you don't know what matters, I've had so many conversations with clients before where they have said to me, I've been thinking about this. And then they'll tell me their thought process. And then they say to me, but I don't know if that matters in this situation. Does it matter? What impact will it have? Because I've never done this before. And the ability to have that conversation and then for me to be able to say to them, actually, yes, that really matters. And the reason it matters is because it can have this impact, which is why, as part of our plan, we decided to do this. And that will cover that. Here's how. Or, no, that is just your brain and your body telling you this is new and scary. The likelihood that's actually going to happen and your business is going to burn to the ground is actually really minimal. It's not going to happen. So it's not something that you should worry about now, just in case it does. It's not worth it. Having conversations like this is what will help you grow your business. It will help you get better systems, better processes, better way of operating, which is what you want. The other thing that you need to be able to do is know yourself well enough to think about why you're making the choices you're making. What might be driving this decision or hesitation that might not be so obvious? You know who you are as a person. You know how you process information. You know whether you're quick to jump on board with things and then to later go, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Or whether you take a long time to make a decision and feel confident about it. Or whether you never want to move forward if you feel like you've got questions that aren't answered. You have that insight and take that insight and use it as a growth tool. If I know I'm not going to be able to confidently make a decision If I still have these questions, take those questions and ask them. Get the answers that you need from the people that you need them from, so that you can make a clear decision, a confident decision, so that you don't have to do the flip-flop and you don't have to stay uncomfortable. You're choosing to move forward. The other piece of this is that comfortability and our need to stay comfortable is because we're trying to protect someone, whether that's ourselves or whether that's someone else. We live in a world with other people. We have businesses with other people, and with people is joy and conflict. A majority of us don't like conflict. And sometimes we see conflict where there is no conflict. And it just adds another layer of complexity, doesn't it? And so if we're put in a position where we have to change the way we've done something, and it means somebody else is going to do some of it, we have to let go of some control, and that's uncomfortable. We have to then be able to be confident in someone else doing it and somebody else using their knowledge and understanding. They might not do it the same way as you. Or what if the quality is really bad? And now I'm going to have hard conversations and potentially have conflict with another person. If I do it myself, I can avoid all that and I'm safe. And that person doesn't have to feel offended by me when that's not what I'm trying to say to them. I can avoid all that conflict and I can stay here. But there's no boundaries there. We need to be able to put in safe boundaries and boundaries that are going to work for us, for the other people, and for the business as a whole. Because if you want to keep expanding, your business can't operate as if you can just step in and do the thing all the time, or you'll just keep that piece because right now it feels too hard to hand it over in case something else happens. We need to challenge those thoughts a little bit. And we need to consider what another perspective might be. If I give them this feedback, they're going to think that I'm criticizing them. But what if that's not what happens? What if the fact that you have to give this feedback that this person hasn't hit the nail on the head? Well, one is because it's human error and we're humans. Two is because you never created the systems, the processes, and the context that was needed to do the job successfully in the first place. And even in that, that's not criticism. That's saying, hey, there's a hole here and there's some knowledge that I have that needs to come out. How can I give this to you so that you can do your best work? How can I pass that on and hand it over? Because at the moment, obviously, I haven't really done that. And that's why we're seeing these errors. It's a different perspective. And positioned like that, it doesn't feel like an attack. I'm actually taking some ownership over the fact that I know some things and I didn't hand the knowledge over. Well, how do we fix that? And then we create a solution. And that solves the problem. Instead of just taking back the different tasks or taking back different roles or reverting to older processes that might not serve us anymore. And if all else fails, if you feel uncomfortable and you don't know why, or you can't quite pinpoint the exact issue, you can't find the reason why you wanted to push this envelope in the first place, I want you to think about the cost of time. You doing all of the things won't ever help your business grow. It's not sustainable. It's just not. And it's not going to help you improve. Putting more and more knowledge and information into your bucket won't build a scalable business. It builds your knowledge and your perspective and gives you more things to learn, understand, and develop. But it will always be you in the center of it. There's money. If you're spending all your time or some of your time doing things that don't need to be you, you are losing out on revenue. Potentially you're paying someone who can't really do their job properly because you haven't been able to nut this out yet, or because you're invested in these smaller things. And it means that all your creativity and all your you-ness is getting blocked by that. And imagine what it could be like if you had the space and you had the time, if you had the opportunity to think innovatively. What would the revenue impact be then? What about the freedom cost? If I keep putting more things on my plate, if I keep accumulating more knowledge and building my internal knowledge pool, I'm putting myself in a box. I'm taking away my freedom layer by layer, because instead of building into a business system that can sustain itself, regardless of who the people are, I'm putting everything in one bucket, me. And more often than not, it gets stuck there. And then we get frustrated because why does it always have to be us? Why does it have to be us to get it done right? Why can't I figure out a way where I can just have some time and have some peace and do what I want with my life? There has to be a better way to do this. And yeah, there is. But staying comfortable won't get you there. And then ultimately, there's burnout. Burnout appears so often when we put more on our plate and put more on our plate, or think that we have to do something, or if we see a consequence as bigger than it actually is. If a blog gets published on the wrong day, I can choose to have a really big meltdown about it and think that's it, business is over. What if an extra 10 people had clicked that link today? What process has failed? What system did that live in? Who did it? What do I need to do to fix this? Or maybe the person that was meant to put the date in, put it in wrong. Is it ideal? No. Is it something that can be fixed in the future? Yes. Is it worth me then saying, okay, I'm going to do that bit from now on, just in case? Absolutely not. Because why would you want to risk burning out over potentially going back to someone and saying, hey, we had this break in the chain. How can we stop this from happening again? The impact hasn't cost you millions and millions of dollars. It just hasn't felt very good. And the second that we acknowledge that feeling, we can push past it. So when you're making decisions, or when you notice that your opinion has quickly changed, look underneath. Usually you'll find something missing or a question that you have that needs to be answered, and ask yourself if this is serving you. Does this support growth, or does this support staying the same? Where are you investing your time, money, and knowledge? And is it in the direction that you want it to go? If the answer is yes, then it's fine. Sometimes there are two options and they're just as good as each other. And your preference might be one, someone else's preference might be the other. It doesn't matter which one you pick. They're much of a muchness, and that's totally okay. And you get to have those choices. But it's not good if you're making choices or feeling hesitation, but you haven't really thought about the impact and whether it's serving you, because that's what we want. A business that serves you and goes in the direction that you want it to go in. I hope that you have found this helpful. I hope that it's given you some inspiration and some tactics to be brave. Be brave, empire builder. I know you can be. Loving the Audacious Empires podcast? Drop into our DMs at Audacious Empires and say hi. We'd love to get to know you better. If you're finding these episodes useful, don't forget to leave us a 5-star review. Thanks for tuning in. You are why we're here.